Wow. Anita Sarkeesian. You know, I never thought I'd have the pleasure of analyzing one of your masterpieces, and yet here you are, gracing me with a spicy Sarkeesian E3 graph on female representation. If you don't know who Anita Sarkeesian is, she is the beautiful figurehead of feminist frequency and a lover of video games. But don't take it from me, my skeptical listeners, she says as much in this interview.
How do you feel about video games?
I still love them. I think games are really where we're going.
Video games are so interesting and engaging and interactive. I'm a gamer and I enjoy games. I love games. I'm a fan of games.
What a touching story. Yep, nothing else to delve into here, just a lover of games since day one. Don't worry, Sargon. I'll show the other clip in a little bit. Now, most of the skeptic community might remember Anita from that little fiasco with Sargon of Akkad, and if you don't remember it, it went a little something like this. No one really knows what happened to that fountain of content after that. Some say the constant disabling of her comments section drove her mad. Others simply thought she faded into obscurity, like the gorillas in the fog. That's a bad analogy, but either way, she came back to E3 to give us another juicy piece to talk about, and be it beyond me to pass up on a Sarkeesian analysis. Now, first off, I want to commend Anita and her crew for actually creating this graph each year for the past few years. She really must be a fan of video games to be able to—
Except I'm doing video games, so it's not exactly a fandom. I'm not a fan of video games. I actually had to learn a lot about video games in the process of making this.
NANI? Yeah, wait, but I thought you— But you said— Oh, okay. So a few points off of the credibility board, but just because someone does something suspicious in the past doesn't mean that what they're saying today isn't true. It just makes people a little more skeptical is all I'm trying to say. So, Anita uses the graph to state that women are underrepresented at E3, and a ton of work is needed to make that change. Now, I could just not try to solve why that's the actual case and throw out some random vague answer, but I'm actually looking for an answer grounded in research and facts. Most people's assumptions are that men vastly dominate the gaming industry, so that's why women are less represented. That being only an assumption, I looked into the research done by the ESA, or the Entertainment Software Association, in 2016, and found that the ratio of male gamers to female gamers at that time was only a difference of 2%, with men at 51% and women at 49%. So it seems like Anita was correct after all. I mean, if these statistics are true, and they're being made by the same big companies you see at E3, there is a huge lack of representation of female-based protagonists at E3. That is, unless there is something more to this than meets the eye. You see, while this ratio of gamers might only be a 2% difference, there is a 20% difference in who is buying the video games, with men being at 60% and women at 40%. Now, we all know that companies go where the money goes, and if 60% of your clientele is males, you might say that seems to make more sense as to where they would lean. But hold on, Rational, you might be typing in the comment section down below. How can women be 49% of the gamers, but only 40% of the spenders on said games? Which is funny, because that's exactly what I asked. You're pretty clever. For that answer, my dear listeners, we must not ask the who or the why, but the what. Specifically, what are women playing? To find that, I used the Canadian branch, Hello Armored Skeptic, of the ESA, which is the ESAC, or Entertainment Software Association of Canada, to find out what women were playing. Now, the statistics of the Canadian gamers is very similar to our own, so I feel comfortable in using their graph as an example. And oh man, look at how cool their research page looks. I mean, look at they got little 8-bit characters and pictures. ESA, you gotta step up your game, man. Anyway, they go from generation to generation serving what women and men are playing, and oh boy, do you ladies love your puzzle games. I mean, look at this. Kids age 6 to 12, 48% puzzle games. Teenagers, 42% puzzle games. Millennials, 49% puzzle games. Generation X, 64% puzzle games. Baby boomers, 73% puzzle games. And when you look at the male side, males, kids, action adventure, 45%. Teenagers, shooting, 48%. Millennials, 47% action adventure. Generation X, 36% action adventure. And puzzle games for the baby boomers because, you know, you got to keep your eyesight up and all that jazz. So what? That just means that girls like Nancy Drew and guys like Duke Nukem. E3 just needs to start pumping out the puzzle games with female protagonists, right? Wrong. Because there is one bit of information that brings all of this together. You see, both ESA and ESAC have gauged that the age range for people playing the most games bounces between 35% in America and 36% in Canada. They also gauge what they're playing their games on. And if we go to the main age range for females and males, which is bouncing between millennials and Generation X, you find that millennial female gamers prefer 92% to be playing on mobile devices. Generation X is 85%. That's right, they're playing a specific genre of games that are most likely free from the App Store on a device that is the weakest link at E3. Most of the things that you see at E3 are console-based games. They're trying to push the console. So to sum it up, women are not equally represented in the games at E3 because E3 focuses on computer and console games primarily. Meanwhile, most of the female gamers are playing puzzle games. They're playing them on their phones. That is the reason why they're leaning more towards the males, who are focusing more on console games. And they're focusing on action RPGs, and they're also the people who are buying the games more often. I'm not saying this to be rude or sexist or even to dismiss that there are female gamers that are playing some of these action adventure shooter games. I think we see that if you look at your graph in a different light, Anita. They're seeing that males are the people who play this game the most, but they don't want to leave those female gamers out. That is why they're making games that are for both genders. That's why you're able to choose whether you want to be a female or a male in a lot of these games. I mean, look at your previous graphs. You can even see that the companies are catering to that audience of people who are female gamers and do want to, see female avatars. I think that's a positive thing. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me today. If you liked it, leave a comment down below. If you disagreed, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. This is Rational the Radio, tuning out.